Okay, now, from the beginning.
Greetings, hello, and welcome to the Dotcast. This is the podcast for wedding photographers, creatives, and business owners, brought to you by NineDots. I'm Andy Gaines, and we are super excited to have you here today. Here at the Dotcast, we dive deep into the world of wedding photography, creativity, and entrepreneurship. So whether you're an experienced photographer or someone just starting out on your journey, NineDots is here to help you on the way. From our online community, through our educational videos, awards, and in-person events like the NineDots Gathering, for almost 10 years now, NineDots has been dedicated to making you the best photographers and business owners you can be. You can find more about NineDots, the membership, and all the benefits of that, as well as our community and all our in-person events, down at the links in the description below. The NineDots community embraces and values a diverse range of all talents, experiences and stories from the world of wedding photography. So whatever your background, experience level or style, the NineDots community is the perfect place to grow and learn together. So check out the links in the description, and without further ado, let's get on with our episode.
I think a lot of photographers, maybe not now because people are struggling a little bit more, but before when things were really good, they get their back up of like being offered 150 quid for like 2 hours worth of work, or 250 quid or whatever it might be. But then I've always been like, that's like a whole day's wage if you were working at Sainsbury's or something like that. And so like, I know you've got the skills and you're talented, but if someone's offering you that, it's either no money or here's some money for like an hour or 2 hours worth of work. And I'm not saying like you should be taking this mid-July Saturday sort of thing, but if it's like a February and it's a Tuesday and you need money, like it would be silly to turn it down.
I also think with so much with photographers, good karma pays off, right?
Yeah,
I have a little WhatsApp group of Surrey photographers, and any time I can't do an inquiry, the first thing I do is put it in that group, because I know that they will all do the same. And there's some of us that will get more inquiries than others, or I'll get a random event and more of them do weddings than they do corporate stuff. But if it helps everyone pay their mortgage just a little bit, and they didn't have to fight for the inquiry, it's far better that than just it saying to somebody, no, I can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. There's that alternative too. I totally believe in that as well.
Share the love.
Share the love. Yeah, exactly. So you were saying before we just started this, like you were saying about paying for recommended supply lists, like you don't do that, right?
I try and I think when I've been doing this in almost 2 decades.
Really?
That makes me sound so old. Yeah, it was 2006 I shot my first wedding.
Wow.
So 20 years next year. Obviously I was 12 when I started.
Yeah.
For those who are not watching this in person, I'm not actually, 32 now. But that it was more almost the done thing. I think with some of the kind of like venues then that they wanted a few hundred quid to be on their website. But there's some, I've had an inquiry, I don't know, maybe last year to 2 years ago, where a venue wanted like a 15% of every booking kind of set up. And I was like, I've already got 4 bookings there that year, and I'm offering their content, like Instagram person, any links to photos and videos that I've done afterwards. I was like, how are a venue that's that big and doing so well going to take 15% of everything that I'm earning? It just felt really icky as a beginning of like working relationship. And I sent an email back saying, thank you for wanting me, but this isn't how I'm going to work this. It's not comfy for me. And I'm already getting bookings at your venue and love working there, but I don't need to give you a portion of my wages to get those bookings. Like, it's so awkward, but I just think we've got to stand up for ourselves, because otherwise we work so hard for the stuff we can have ourselves. There's so many people doing this job now.
Yeah, definitely. But with, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. With the 15%, but they weren't charging you 15% for your existing bookings, like the ones that you're getting.
No.
It's just
so it was like if I got the booking myself, but if it had come through them, I think it was to be listed on their website. Then if I got a booking there, I'd have to give them 15%.
Yeah, but how do they even know?
There is that, right? And it got my back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I sent a very polite but corporate email back saying thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah, and what was their response?
They did reply saying, like, thanks for letting us know how you feel, rather than just never replying.
Yeah.
Because I imagine they're putting that out to loads of people, and those who are more inclined to really need the booking might say yes, or that are a higher price point than me and can lose 15%. But I hadn't put my prices up for such a long time that I was just like, that feels like a big chunk, and it's a really big venue. They're going to make way more money than I am from my little bit of the day.
Yeah, exactly. What about, like, did you mention in that email, like, you know, that you're going to give them content and you give them like images?
Yeah,
and all that
and
stuff?
I already had, like, I think I'd already shot like 4 or 5 at their venue. I don't want to say where it is. And if you'd scrolled through their Instagram, like, I don't know, at least within every 9 pictures was one of mine.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, I don't think I need to have the opportunity to have to pay for that to still be shown on your feed.
Yeah.
No. But people are funny about it. I think everyone's trying to kind of make money, and I totally don't have a problem with that. But when it's a bigger
corporate
company, like a venue, it just feels like they're kind of like tapping away at the little man just a little bit too much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I did I gave, it's not like, it's a bit of a dirty word, like backhander or whatever. Like I gave, someone 150 quid the other day, well, a planner basically, for recommending me a wedding.
Yeah.
And so he recommended me a wedding. He says like, oh, they're going to get in touch, this and the other. And I booked the wedding. But the thing is that I had already shot the groom's sister's wedding. So I had a feeling that they might come to me anyway. Yeah. But then I was talking to a decorator friend of mine, and he was just like, you know what, they're a really good planner. He's just like, instead of them asking you again, he's just like, just give them something as a token gesture.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you know, 100, 150. And he's just like, then you keep them in the good books, and then, you know, they'll recommend you more. Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, but then I don't want to make it an everyday, like every time you refer me.
Every time.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought, because times are changing a little bit, I don't want to be like, stubborn about it. And, you know, so I was just like, okay. And it was a pretty hefty booking. It was over 2.5 days. So it was like 150 quid was not negligible, but it was all right amount.
A small
to like
portion.
Yeah, exactly. To like give them. But it's the first time I've ever done that. And it felt weird, like paying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I at Christmas, I had a really good photographer friend of mine send me a big hamper of like a thank you gift for me for the amount of the amount of referrals I've given her through last year.
Yeah.
And like that kind of like friendship in the industry, I think is worth having.
Oh, 100%. Do you know what? Like, you reminded me, like, a long time ago, one of my friends, he was a videographer, and I recommended so many weddings. And this is like years ago. He bought me a drone, like those big Phantom 4 things or whatever, like massive. Yeah.
Wow, keep him as a friend.
Yeah, no, he's a really good friend of mine now. He doesn't do weddings anymore, but he's a really good friend. And he was just like, here's a little present for you. Like, and I was just like blown away because they were worth a lot of money at that time. And it was just from the amount of referrals I'd given him. So
yeah, I think that there's so much to be said in kindness and support than there is fighting against it.
Yeah.
I remember like the first, what do you call them? Like, I don't do wedding fairs particularly that often, but like 15, 16 years ago, going to wedding fairs and almost other photographers being like, don't look at my things, don't look at my prices. And I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, hello, lovely to meet you. How have you been doing this? And just like assumed that everybody was going to be friendly. And it almost took me aback a bit that it wasn't like that. And I think that has shifted somewhat. I think there's more collections of like socials and support rather than I need the booking. And if I don't tell anyone my secrets, and maybe that's because I'm more in the head of an educator and I've been doing this so long that I want to tell people things that could help with their business. But I also think COVID and times like that, when we all needed to lean on each other a little bit, when the world went to falling apart. And, I shot a couple of weddings for people who then couldn't shoot a wedding. That, you need to know that if the night before a wedding your kid gets rushed into A&E, there's somebody you could call to say, help.
Yeah.
And that, you're friendly enough that they'd know you'd do that for you and and vice versa. So I think it's better to have that connection with people in the industry than it is to be one man for yourself.
Oh, definitely. I think like even when I started, like I remember trying to research people, like because I was trying to figure out, and then I reached out to like photographers and asking them like just questions, and just literally got ghosted, or they weren't willing to give out any advice or tips or anything. I think like it's definitely changed now.
I think so. Maybe that's YouTube and Instagram and like, I mean, when I first started, Facebook was new. MySpace was just heading out. And maybe the fact that like our own personal branding and showing up online and clients buying into us as well as other photographers being kind of supportive of each other. If I see a good picture of somebody I follow, I'm the first person to go, oh my God, now this is incredible. Like, I feel like we're such needy creatives, maybe wanting to like go, tell me I did a good job. And even when you've been doing it a really long time and you know that your work is consistent and you're good at what you do, it's still nice to have somebody who you respect go, oh my God, you nailed that.
Yeah, definitely. It always feels good if I get a photographer like comment or something
and be
it's
like, really nice. I mean, it's, couples are going to say, hopefully, they love what you've done. But I put up a post the other day on my stories. Basically, I'd been on something online. I'd sent it to my parents, like a what would you call it? Like a school report for a 43-year-old. Was like, Mum and Dad, watch this. I've been on this program and I want you to see it. And my dad messaged me back saying, you looked very professional, darling. We would book you if we were getting married. And I shared that as a story on my Instagram. And I probably had about 30 comments from ex-clients, wedding photographers going, oh my God, that's so sweet. I love that your mum and dad said that they would book you. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting that resonates with people, that we want that, like, whose opinion is most important to you? Like your clients and maybe your parents, like that reassurance that like, I'm doing it okay, right?
Yeah, it's funny what resonates with people on Instagram though, to be fair. You know, like things that...
I mean... you can put up a picture of your roast dinner and it gets 500 views. You put up your best wedding photos and it gets 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Screw the algorithm.
It's so random. I put random stuff up sometimes and I'm like, it's been like 900 views on this story, and then I put something that is actually decent and it's like 30, and I'm like, what's happened there?
I think my way with Instagram is to just feed the beast, keep showing up. I don't post like regularly in terms of every other day or whatever up to my feed, but if I've got things to shout about, I make sure that it's there. I probably post stories at least 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah, I'm similar.
Some personal, some posts. Or share other things that I find interesting or funny, or might link something else, or shout out about another supplier, or it seems to work, Instagram, for me. I don't know how you find it.
Yeah, I find it pretty decent, to be fair. I used to be a guy that was scheduling like a post every single day.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but I've stopped that now for like the last year. And I post like, but I think I stopped mainly because like I use stories more, and then like Instagram posts for like actual weddings and stuff. And and it works for me. Like I get quite a few inquiries like through Instagram. So, and they always, on the contact form, they always mention it and they found me on Instagram. So it's doing it.
Dive stalking your work on Instagram, even if they didn't find you there. They're like, oh, okay, let's see what, like, because your website is maybe 2 years old, whereas your Instagram might be a little bit more updated. So I always feel like people look on your website and then pop to Instagram and then maybe come back again.
Yeah.
But I think because I do family shoots as well as weddings, it's a really useful one for keeping in touch with family clients or brides that then go and, couples that go and have babies and take their world into family world, that I can see that those things are happening and congratulate them. And like, if they're going to then book somebody for that family shoot or newborn shoot, it's likely to be me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way to be using Instagram for as well, just I love it to stay connected with my couples as well.
Oh my God, so many of them have become proper friends.
Yeah, they have become the proper friends to me as well, but a lot of them, they like, it's always nice because they always like say like, oh, should we meet for dinner, or should we go for shisha, or should we like go to a bar or whatever. But it's like, I have to say no a lot of times because I barely have time for my own family and friends. So like then suddenly gaining all of these guys, but like I do, like I've met a few of them. Like I've been to football once, and I met I'm out with a couple of people, and so now and again I like meet them, and it's good, and it's so like lovely. It's nice.
How many weddings are you doing a year? You've got a lot of couples you've got to keep in touch with.
No, 20.
Okay, so not kind of crazy numbers.
No, but I end up becoming like befriending them. Like, do you know what I mean? Because from the minute they book, like I always encourage them to like set up a WhatsApp group between me and like both of them. Nice. And so like anytime they're at a decor and or they're somewhere and they need advice, then I'm just like, look, ping me on WhatsApp because it's the easiest way. Yeah. And so and those groups though, they have stayed alive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you become so invested in their story.
Yeah.
Like it's such a weird experience that someone meets you on the internet, looks at some pictures you've taken over the last 10 years and then goes, oh, you could be my best mate on my wedding day. And you meet their parents and their siblings and their best mates, and you see like the highs and lows of one of the most powerful days in their story, like a key marker of their life. You can't help but care. And the amount of couples that you speak to, I don't know, when I do a family shoot, a newborn shoot, or I just keep in touch with them afterwards, and then you tell little anecdotes about their wedding, the amount of people I remember that I'm like, oh yeah, your colleague, the one in the purple dress that was really drunk dancing, like doing the worm. She's like, how do you remember that? I'm like, because I was people watching all day.
Yeah, and like, stone cold sober.
And that too. And I have photographic and video evidence and have watched that for a week. So those people are very much in my mind. I think about 18 months ago, I saw someone in our local petrol station and he'd been a best man at a wedding in like something like 2009. And I was like, I know you. And he was like, how on earth do you remember me? And I was like, you're on my computer for a week. So your face is somewhere in my brain. I don't know. I just feel like I've stored all of these people and they're somewhere in my mind.
I've done the same. I was in my hairdresser once, and this guy walked in and I was just like, I know this guy. And then I was just like, I just said to him, I said, look, man, I go, no, this is really random, but were you like the best man at Vivian's wedding or did a speech? And he's just like, yeah. He goes, who are you? I was like, I'm the photographer. And he's like, oh man, it's such a good memory. He goes, he was praising my photos and stuff. And it was like awesome. And, but he's just like, how the hell do you remember? I said, mate, I've been staring and editing you for like a week and if not longer. Yeah. So yeah, I know who you are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe that's something about the kind of people that take up this sort of job. I always think like, is there a personality type that love what we do? And like, I think you have to be a certain kind of person to never take a sick day. Like, it doesn't matter if I had literally broken a foot or a rib or I'm heavily pregnant. You know, like there's never a moment where you're like, oh, I can't show up. And, you know, whatever your life, I've done weddings like the day after my granddad passed away. I've done weddings where one of my kids was going through some serious mental health stuff. And you're like, I have to go and shoot this wedding. It's not just about like signing a contract. It's such a like life decision to do what we do. And I think you have to be so committed to it. And then you have to be able to like switch off everything that's your personal stuff and walk through the door and like deliver and then get back in your car and go, okay, now I'm a mum, a sister, a friend. And I'll tap back in with everybody in my life. But I feel like my brain just goes, woof, wedding, as I turn up.
It's funny because, like, if I just heard that 30-second stuff of what you just mentioned, I'd shit my pants and not want to be a wedding photographer. Yeah,
well, exactly.
I'm like, no.
And I'm like, if I think about it,
yeah, like I would be like, this is not for me. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I've not shown up twice. And that was because of COVID, and I had COVID, and so like I had people. But even after the day after my father passed away, I went to a wedding and I shot it. So
it's so hard. Like
it was difficult.
I think that's a real like an inner strength that like it's not acknowledged maybe as much as it should be of how committed we are to once we've said yes to something to being there.
Yeah, I told them like because like. When you send the wedding agreement over, like couples always ask like, oh, you know, it says this thing about illness. And I'm like, listen, I literally have to be on my deathbed for me not to turn up to your wedding. So, I look after myself the night before your wedding. I don't go out to a restaurant and eat out in case I get a stomach bug. Yeah, exactly. I'm at home. I'm just chilling. I do all these steps for me to be well for your wedding.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen how often you're at the gym. There's that commitment to our own physical health, mental health. I think you really have to prep that, because if I'd gone out till 2 a.m. dancing the night before a wedding, I'd be dead. I mean, I find back-to-backs hard at this age. When I first started, I quite happily would do a Friday, Saturday and Sunday booking and do 14 hours on my feet, back up everything till 2 a.m, get a few hours kip, go back again. And I fairly quickly realised I was a terrible parent by the time it got to Tuesday and Wednesday. And I was exhausted. So I try really hard now to not take on any double headers.
I try, but
you end up
I can't.
Anyway?
Yeah, I'm doing double triples all through summer. Yeah, 16-hour days, 18-hour days. It is what it is. Yeah, it's it's tough, but my work is, even though people say it's not as seasonal anymore, but it really is. January till mid-May, I've got one wedding, and then June, July, August, I have 19. So. It is what it is. I'm all right with it. Yeah.
I've taken August off as a month, apart from maybe one at the beginning of the month for the last maybe 10 years.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to do that.
Always.
I think that's the dream.
I say, I'm really sorry. I'll go away with my family in this month.
Yeah.
And I'm not available.
Yeah. I'd love to do that, honestly. I've tried, and I took 2 weeks off. Well, two weekends off last year in August because I went to Thailand.
I took 2 weekends off in 50.
Yeah, so it was 3 weeks.
Should be grateful.
Yeah, no, but it was 3 weeks away basically.
Okay.
And it was great. But I said to my wife this year, I can't do that because as much as I love being away, it was it cost X amount to go away, and I lost X amount on bookings, and
it is scary when you say no. I have a big operation due at the end of this year. Quite happy to talk about it, but I need a hysterectomy, and my surgeon has said to me I'll need at least 6 weeks kind of resting and maybe up to 12 weeks of not heavy lifting. And I was like, my job requires quite a lot of equipment from me, very much in the area that's going to be sore. And he was like, no, you won't be able to do it. So being able to kind of plan for that. And I've had inquiries for early 2026. And I'm having to say, I'm really sorry, I don't think I can commit to this because I don't know when my surgery date's going to be.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing when I knew we would be trying for a baby, that I went, I'm going to say no to your wedding because I'm hoping I'll be pregnant. And it's a bit of a kind of scary position to be in. But equally, I know I don't want to let people down if I commit to weddings that I know is going to be I need recovery.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I remember when we were trying, I used to make a joke of it. I had a template email, and I was just I would write we're trying for a baby, but I can let you in about 3 to 4 weeks. I'll let you know, whether I can shoot your wedding or not. Because if my diary opens up, it opens up. And I can't remember. I had a really funny line in there, and people loved it. But they were like, "Oh, we some were like, we can wait," and others were like, "No, we're going to carry on." Hopefully you do get pregnant.
Booking. Yeah. I get it. I mean, I was very lucky to conceive in April, May, both times, so that I had January babies, so it worked with wedding season.
Yeah.
So both my kids are born in January, so that I could work up to November, take off until April, and be back to weddings by May.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, fully committed to the job.
Yeah, that is really committed.
It's in the diary of going, we'll make a baby then, because I need to be back to work. Thank you so much for trying.
Honestly, that is good. The thing is, for being female, it's that's tough as well, because it took my wife a long time to recover from the C-section. We had it both times, and it was 2-3 month recovery for the first one, a lot of loss of blood and stuff like that, and it was just
it's huge.
If she was a wedding photographer, she'd have to turn down weddings, because you'd think, oh, maybe after 6 weeks or 8 weeks or two months, you're good, but yeah, it's not the case.
No, I've got really female photographer friends who I know have experienced some scary moments at weddings when they've been pregnant, and also one who was shooting a wedding, I think 5 weeks after she'd given birth, and to before you have a baby and you go, I'll be fine to leave this tiny thing that I just brought into the world. I'll be fine. Like, it's not a puppy. You're like, instinct as a parent is so strong hormonally and like driven. It's kind of like, it's beyond your control to go, I need to look after this thing and keep it alive because that's my worldly job. To then have to go, see ya. It's the hardest thing. And I think that got easier as my kids were kind of like toddlers and little ones and were quite happy to spend time with grandparents and my husband and, you know, off they'd go for the weekends. I feel like now my eldest is planning to leave home this summer and go off to university. There's a bit of me that's like, do I want to work every weekend so that when they do come home, I'm still not here?
Yeah, that's true.
That like have hit the other end of it where they don't need me for school runs or making dinners or packed lunches. You know, I'm just a taxi driver at 4 a.m. when they get back from somewhere and there's no trains.
Yeah.
But it's a different end of parenting that I hadn't really considered as a wedding photographer, that if they don't live in your house, I won't see them.
Yeah. Yeah. To be fair, I've never thought of it.
You've got 10 years. You've got 10 years. It's fine. You've got time.
I've never really thought, like, I remember though when we were trying and I was just like, oh my God, how am I going to find time to edit? And then like, you know, and then we had like Amelia and then it was just like editing during nap times. And then I got a bit of like time back when she went to nursery and then I just shifted everything. And like, literally my working day is like 9 a.m. to like 2:30 p.m.
Still now?
Still now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah, because I do some work. Like, don't get me wrong. If I'm like finishing an edit and I've got like 45 minutes left on the dance floor, then when they come home, you know, I give them like TV, iPads or whatever. And
thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah. And they're good with that and they're chilling. But I don't want to make it like me sitting in front of my laptop till like 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, because my wife goes to, well, back then she used to go to work and stuff like that. And now she's at home. So it's a bit different. Okay. So sometimes I can be thingy. But what I was trying to say is during that whole time, there was always a way. Like I always found a way. I guess it's good for like people that are listening that are like maybe trying or whatever. And they're like, oh, when am I going to find the time? Because it does become busy, but you just find a way. Like
I think there's that real, you've got to be realistic about it. And you've got to be, I think all things like this is about being honest with the people you're working with. And, you know, like I have a wedding that I did middle of December, so just before Christmas. I broke my foot on the 29th of December. And so they've already had a 1-minute trailer, 300 pictures, and their audio file of speeches and the whole of the ceremony. So they've had a fair bit from me, but I haven't delivered their full 4 or 5 minute highlight video and their full set of photos. But I've kept in touch saying, I haven't, up until about a week and a half ago, I couldn't really sit for more than about 20 minutes before my foot would go completely numb. And then I'd have to kind of like move around because the bone's trying to grow and it really throbs. But the more like honest you are with your clients, that it might take, you know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks to kind of get stuff back to them. I think they're fairly understanding that life goes on too.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I remember like when we had the little one as well, like, and I had to look after Nay, my wife, because like of the C-section and stuff like that. They all understood. They all came back and they all understood. Because I think, and if they didn't, I'll be like, fuck, that's a real red flag. Like, glad your wedding's over or something.
Although often wedding couples perhaps haven't had kids yet and aren't really in that headset of knowing how hard it is.
Yeah. No. I get that. No, what I mean is like, but if they can't be understanding, doesn't make a difference. Like, what situation, if you're presenting them with a scenario where you were expecting some empathy and they're like, nah, we still want our galleries.
Give it to us now.
Yeah, your contract said this and you're like...
Yeah. I mean, it's red flags all round. I kind of think the way you communicate with your clients makes such a big difference on how forgiving they would be with that kind of stuff anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think from the get-go of my first email, it's not particularly... like professional sounds awful. I am professional, but it's really friendly. Yeah. And like it starts off with almost like a kind of like we've been friends for 10 years and they've got back in touch and they want me to shoot their wedding rather than I'm a lady off the internet that they've never met before. So I think like setting that level of chat and support and, you know, offering advice. And if they've, you know, things they need to find for their wedding and they haven't yet found a florist or a makeup artist, and you're like, don't worry, I've got you. Then that is energy and kindness is always fed back to you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also a big believer of picking up the phone. I know a lot of like photographers hate it.
I love a phone call. Yeah,
and they want to like, they want to like just email everything. But some things like they just, when you're sending an email, it can just be translated. Like if they're in a bad mood, and you could send the nicest of email, but if they're in a bad mood on the receiving end, they're going to read it in a different tone, and then and then that's it. Whereas at least if you're on the phone with them, you can gauge and you can be like, hey, and then you can gauge their tone, and then you can like say whatever you need to say, because so many people in the NineDots group, for example, they're always just like, oh, what would you do in this situation? I'm like, mate, I'll just pick up the phone. I'd have to pick up the phone, because
I say it to so many people when I get asked. There's probably, I don't know, 10-ish photographers that ask my advice on like, how do I reply to this email? And I've got this problem and this client said this. And I'm like, quite often, have you spoken to them about it?
Yeah.
Or when you get people saying to you, I've sent the gallery and they haven't replied and I don't know if they like it. And I sent an email saying, I hope you like it. And they haven't got back to me. And I'm like, maybe they've got a kid that's sick. Maybe their partner's having issues at work. Maybe you're not the most important thing this week.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to kind of like go, we are just a little element. And, you know, or they might still be on honeymoon and they've not got great Wi-Fi. And, you know, it's not personal.
They love the pics and they just don't care about telling you.
Personal.
Yeah. But like, I find a lot of times they love the pics and they just don't tell you, and they don't like,
no, there is
I'm more of like a no news is good news kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, yeah, it's great. Because I think like, I don't know about yourself, but like with me, I milk so much out of them when I deliver my previews. Like I get my reviews done, I get like all the goodness, I get everything I want. My gallery is just like the final piece of the puzzle.
Hey there, wedding photographers and filmmakers. If you're looking to level up your business and craft in a big way, then the NineDots membership could be the exact secret sauce that you've been looking for. With the NineDots membership, you'll get continual development through hundreds of hours of courses, tutorials from leading wedding photographers and filmmakers, business coaching to help make your businesses efficient and build your dream lifestyle, and the support of an incredible community who just get what it's like to be a wedding professional. Don't just take my word for it. Check out what Francis, one of our NineDots members, had to say.
Without a doubt, joining NineDots was the best investment for my photography business. It's not only helped with developing my skills as a photographer and the business side, but I've also developed great friendships from the community, which I absolutely cherish. I was able to go from part-time to a full-time photographer, and I have NineDots to largely thank for this. One of the best things about photography is that we can always be learning more and pushing ourselves to create beautiful images, and NineDots continuously provides content to help do this.
You can think of NineDots membership as being an AAA pass into the businesses and minds of the leading wedding photographers and filmmakers from around the world. You can join that community and access all the benefits of membership today from just £19 a month. Visit the link in the description below or check out nine-dots.co to find out more and join now. And with that, let's get back to the episode.
So I was talking to another photographer last week at some point, and was saying to them that because I stagger a lot of how I deliver things back to couples, I would send like 10, 20 pictures the day after the wedding, pretty damn quick, get something and then say, you know, are you happy for me to share this on Instagram? And I would always make sure I tell them that I'm going to show them before anything goes online. Then I do, if I've got time, a 1.5 minute trailer that will go up on Instagram and kind of show off the film side of things that I do as well as the photos. And then within a week, I think it says on my website within 2, but generally within a week, I've delivered like 200 images, like a kind of a fair amount. And that's when I get the feedback that's like, oh my God, these are great. The storytelling, like there's so much of the day. We're going to share these. And then you go, well, remember there's more to come. And they're like, no way. Yeah. And that initial like set feels like enough. Like there's a little bit of getting ready, ceremony, some gorgeous couple shots. The most important group shots, or at least one of each. And then something that shows up how, you know, awesome the evening and stuff is. So then like that's all been delivered within a week and a half of the wedding. So like that feedback and like, oh my God, you've done a great job is quite immediate for me and them.
Yeah.
And they're still on a high of it all. And then I sort of say, I will keep you informed as to when I'm going to be ready with the rest of it. But generally a month I deliver a audio file of their ceremony and speeches, and I call that their wedding podcast. So I tell them to go on a long walk together, and like give them a chance to listen to their wedding.
That's a nice idea.
I deliver. Yes, I know that when I'm listening to the audio, and I try and do that while I'm culling their photos, that like I go back to like how nervous he was, or what lovely things the dad said, or how funny the best man was about, like you get back in the vibe of it all. I did a church wedding recently where you could hear the groom like talking and singing throughout all the hymns in the church, which was really funny.
Okay.
He kept talking to her, and like all of those like little tiny moments between the two of them become like, oh, I get even more about their dynamic. And then I send generally the film at about 6 weeks, and then their full set of photos at 8 weeks. Okay. So like over that 2 months, there's quite a lot of touch points to kind of like have some feedback from them. I tend to try and send the film to the groom and tell him to set up a date night. So like do it as a surprise rather than just go, here's your video file, enjoy it. And they end up watching it separately at work. I'll send it to the groom and say, get some bubbles in the fridge, you know, like make sure you've got
a nice idea,
a quiet moment, you know, like it's ready. Like when do you want to do date night? And I'll send you the link. And that way it kind of builds the experience for them. Because if I could have a cinema room and like hire out an everyman and like be like, oh,
that'd be amazing.
I've done flowers and it's all cool, that would so be part of my marketing. But I think it's too expensive and out of reach. So to try and encourage them to do that is really nice. And I don't ask every couple, but I've had a few couples record their own reactions, so I can do like a goggle box Insta post of like them watching their video for the first time. And that always does really well for content. So if I've got a couple that I think won't mind being filmed the other way around, I sometimes ask the groom if he doesn't mind to set up a phone so that they can film themselves watching it. And that's always really lovely to do.
Yeah, I've done that before, actually. I did it with this like US client, and
nice.
I was actually in the room with them. I said, do you mind me filming it? Because basically, it was the day after their wedding. So I was shitting my pants anyway, because I was just like, I wanted to show them the previews while I was there, and they were like getting ready to check out of their suite and stuff like that.
Amazing.
And then they were like, can we bring in our family, like my parents and stuff? I was like, of course you can, like, you know. Then I was just like, oh, can I just record this? And because I was like a bit nervous about recording them, I stopped recording at the best bit when they came to hug me and thank me and everything. I was just this is enough now. It's just, like, I felt like cheese, but that was the best bit. And I pressed stop. But from that wedding, I got one of the biggest compliments ever, like from the bride's dad, because he was just saying to me, he goes, Rahul, he goes, there's so many photographers in the US, and he goes, they're really good. And he goes, I was always wondering, like, why the hell would they get this guy from London and fly him over? I don't understand. Yeah. And after the slideshow, he was just like, now I understand. He goes, you know what? He goes, you're different. He goes, I've never seen photos like this before. I think because the people that they were looking at before were like traditional, and because I gave them like all this natural stuff and whatever, like. And I was just like, oh my God, like, and I said to him, like, can you put that as a Google review? Like,
can I have that in writing? Could you say that on film?
Exactly. Like, it was amazing. But I gave him a massive hug. Like, you know, like, and that's what you're saying about being invested in people's families and stuff. You know, I was with them for like 4 days. Yeah. So like, it was just great. I like had such a good time with them all, and, you know, just connected with them all. And then if their brothers and sisters or siblings get married, and if I don't get asked, I'll actually be hurt.
Yeah, no, completely. I've got a couple of families where I've done the siblings or the cousin's wedding, and I like, if you ever feel like, oh, you went somewhere else, I would be genuinely hurt.
Exactly. I also think like you used to think like before, when it was like, you know, like sort of sometimes there's, now with social media, there's not so much of a final goodbye, but sometimes there's like a goodbye. We like when they used to come and collect albums and stuff from me, and like. The more awkward the goodbye was, it was like the more invested we were both in each other. Whereas if like you get a couple, they're just like, yeah, thanks so much, goodbye. That was like the business corporate kind of transaction. Whereas the more awkward they are, and they're like, you know, will we ever see you again, kind of thing. Yeah, like you know, you're both invested in each other. Yeah, I love that. Like awkward.
Well, I've had, I think it's 3 now where I've shot someone's first wedding and second wedding.
Oh, really?
And they've got remarried to somebody else, which I don't know if is really the done thing. But I was like, are you sure? It's not going to be just you that remembers me, like your parents, your best mates. One was about 8 years between first marriage and second marriage, so it was kind of okay. But the other one was fairly close together, like only a couple of years. And I was like, as I walked in, you could see some of her friends go, that's the photographer from last.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh,
But
no.
so they remember you as well, though. That's crazy, like from 8 years. Have you shot? So a friend of mine has been doing wedding photography for like 20, 25 years as well, right? And last year he photographed someone where he had photographed their first birthday.
Oh, no.
So the bride, he had done the first birthday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then now she's 24 or 25. And then she got married and he photographed her wedding. I was just like, dude, I know you're not really on social media, but this is like a really fucking awesome story to be telling people. That
I've done one where she was her sister's bridesmaid and she was maybe 16 then, and when I first met her, and it was like 12 years later, and then I shot her wedding, so she was a kid when I met her. And I put that up as a story. It was like, she'd messaged me going, you might remember me. And I was like, of course I remember you, but how are you a grown-up already? How has this happened? And yeah, I did her wedding maybe 2 years ago on one of the hottest days of the years. One of those weddings where you're like, okay, I think I've lost 4 stone in running around at this wedding.
Yeah. So how long ago, or how long have you been doing hybrid for then? Like, what made you do that? Like...
I went on a course in 2017 and I rolled it out in the business by later that year. So kind of from 2018 was like, it was my part of my packages to kind of say, add on a highlight film. And then, so I sort of did 2 years pre-COVID, and then during COVID did a bit more sort of online training about video and like try to up it even more, like developed some knowledge of audio and more lighting stuff and like watched hours and hours of YouTube videos of like, okay, how can I make my videos not just like a professional reel? Like, how can I get better at storytelling and seeing moments differently? And so I've been doing it since 2017, but I think my videos have been really consistent since 2020. Which is still, I guess, I forget that it's 2025 that I like, but yeah, 8 years officially, 5 years that I feel like I've really been nailing it.
Yeah, it's nice. So like, how are you shooting? Are you shooting 2 bodies, one's for photos, one for video, or?
No, I like to rub my head, tap my tummy, do a tap dance at the same time. So I have a harness. But with both cameras, I'll shoot photo and film on both of them, depending on what lenses I've got on or what's happening in front of me. More often than not, I will nail the photo first on that particular camera with that lens, with that focal length, and then repeat the same thing on the same camera in film so that it brings the photo alive for 5 seconds rather than changing the cameras so that it is a slightly different look. I would rather the video looks like the pictures have come alive than I've tried to be a different person doing the video.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like, so I've been researching this stuff as well because I really want to add video to my thing. I don't know whether it's going to work with Indian weddings because they're quite big and stuff. But like, I'm doing this engagement session tomorrow for like 2 days in Paris. And so I'm going to like shoot.
Need an assistant? Plan. I mean, I'd fly out.
Yeah, I'm getting the train. So like much easier.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like, but my plan was like to shoot 1 camera for photos and 1 camera for film.
Okay.
And mainly because like when I've been doing all this YouTube and research and stuff like that, like I've been getting baffled with like obviously color profiles and then also with like shutter speeds and the correct stuff and the way to like shoot or whatever. So I don't know, like, are you switching? Like, are you just hitting record with whatever settings you've got, or are you changing color profiles? Like, you know, because you've got to be really quick.
This is a big question. Like, this feels like a lot of information could be thrown at you at this point.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Ready? Are you ready? Let's go. So I never just press record. I shoot on the R6s, and if I do that, it's almost like taking photos in auto. Like the camera's going to make way more choices for me if I just press record. And I want stylistically the video clips to match my photography look in terms of f-stop and what I kind of am framing to be fairly matching. So I like changing gear in the car, and I kind of only compare it like that because it feels like you think about that when you first learn to drive. I'm doing 1, 2, 2, and you almost have to watch yourself do it because it feels so
like
unusual, right?
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you don't even think about that. I mean, I drive an automatic now. I don't even think about it at all. But like you get to a point as a driver where you're like, oh, I don't even need to think about it. I'm just changing gear. And I think that's how I feel about changing settings on the top to move from photos to film. And I don't shoot the same like camera settings for photos as I would film because it needs to work for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But most spaces, so if I was like standing at the top of the aisle and the bride's about to walk down in a church, I would get my camera ready for taking photos, but I'd also turn it to video and check that the settings were right for video too.
Okay.
So that like I'm almost ready to go as soon as they walk down the aisle. But if I do swap between the two, it's micro changes that I'm going to need to make of ISO or, you know, lightening it just a little bit to kind of get it right. But most of the time I'm like, okay, slow your mind down and just be ready. So that's how I kind of then swap between the two things.
Are you like, so what about the color? So with Canon, when you switch from photo to video, I guess, is it changing the color profile from whatever?
Not unless you set it up to be anything differently.
But have you set it up to be different then?
Mine are both, I think, set for standard profile. I don't do anything in camera to kind of alter the colours or contrast or anything. I do all of that in post-production. So I have mentioned this before, and I think some people, I feel a little bit like this is where I never say on any of my promo stuff that I'm a videographer. I'm always like, I'm a highlight filmmaker. Like, I feel like I just need to bring it down a notch. Yeah. That my knowledge is better than most when it comes to like making highlight films. And, you know, I've been doing it a long time and I'm quite happy to teach people how to do it. But there's certain things that I still keep really simple because I know that it works for me. So I was taught when I first learned how to do highlight films to add my Lightroom preset to my videos.
Yeah.
So all I do is edit the video. All I do, I mean, it takes me hours, but all I do is put the video together in Final Cut, export it, pull it into Lightroom, add my preset on import, export it again, and the colours match my photos fairly closely. There may be a couple of clips that might be slightly darker or, you know, slightly more saturated, but side by side, they're pretty damn close. I have started to look into making a lot of my preset so that I could add it in Final Cut and tweak it that much more, but I haven't needed to.
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it.
One of those, right? It's it's a really simple process. And the odd occasion where the footage doesn't look quite right with my preset, I'll go back to Final Cut, bring the exposure down, take it up a little bit, maybe desaturate some clips that looked a little bit too bright by the time I'd added the preset, and then just run that process again.
Okay. Yeah.
But also, you can look at a video on your big screen or on your mobile, on your laptop, you know, on your iPad, and the colours all look slightly different anyway.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But like, so you're what about like, you know, you're making micro adjustments, but you know, for, I don't know, say if you're shooting in someone coming down the aisle in the church, right? And you're shooting at 1/1000 of a second, f2, blah, blah. But then you switch that to video. Would like you change that to 100 frames per second and then quickly change it to like 200 shutter speed? And
so either you don't need to be shooting 1,000 frames per second for video. 100 if you're shooting at 50 frames per second so that you can change stuff to slow-mo, then 100th of a second is your ideal shutter speed. Yeah, ideal.
No, what I meant was like because you're shooting, say, the entrance and you're at like 6400 ISO for photos first.
Yeah.
Right. And then
when you change it to video, it will be whatever you left your video settings on.
Oh, is that what it does? Yeah.
Photo settings would be on. So it's not like it tries to match it. I think I know with the Sonys, because I had a Sony second shooter at one point, if she just pressed record, it would match what the photo settings were.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always right, or it was slightly overexposed for video. So I changed them manually to work for both. Maybe because I'm a control freak, but maybe because I've also got limited. It's generally at weddings, it's just me. I don't tend to have very often a second shooter. So if I didn't get it and I didn't get it right, I've lost that moment. So I've got to nail it. And if I'm guessing that the photo settings will work for video and then they don't, then the moment's passed and I've missed it. So
Yeah.
I would rather have changed them manually to really nail the exposure and the light for that moment than trust that the camera might do it right for me.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I see what you're saying. So when you're tweaking and you know a moment's about to happen, or before it happens, you've already set it for video at like.
That's why, so I literally walk into almost every space going, what do I need to do before anything starts happening? And most things, like, I don't know, the getting ready space, or then going out, like, once you're in that space and you're setting up, like what direction's the wind coming from? What should my settings be? I think most of us have been doing this for a long time. Like, even for photos, you walk into a space going ISO 400, probably, 250th of a second, 1.2, let's go. And you're like, you could probably guess it. You're not like that when you first start. You're like, oh, hang on a minute. Oh no, hang on a minute. I'm checking the back of the camera and that's too bright, too dark. And it's okay to do that when you're first starting out for video too. And as much as there is like an ideal shutter speed for video, because my videos aren't this like long cinematic shot that lasts 35 seconds, they're 1 or 2 second clips. If I shot it at 1,000th of a second, you're probably not going to notice.
Yeah, no one's going to notice that sort of motion blur.
So I crank it when I need to.
Yeah. I'm excited, like, listening to this. I'm going to try tomorrow and see how it goes.
And let me know. I mean, when you're at the shoot, just message me. I can give you like immediate settings advice if it's not working.
Yeah, I'm gonna. You know what? I haven't tested, and I need to do that now. And I'm going to do that after this conversation. Is basically, obviously, when I change from photo to video mode, whether the video mode stays the same on my Sony's or not. I've never tested that actually, because I've got it set to. So I've set it to like. You've got the numbers, like memory recall or whatever. Yeah, so one set to 25 frames per second, one set to 50, and one set to 100. So then I can just switch between whichever ones I needed to. So I don't know, but if I set to one and then change it, and then I go to photos and then I change it back, like whether it'll stay at what I had set
with
to.
all these things, it's knowing your own gear, isn't it? I mean,
I'm going to try that.
When I first started shooting video and I upgraded my 5D Mark III to an R6, and then I had an R6 on one side and a 5D Mark III on the other, and I hadn't upgraded that one. Shooting with 2 different cameras, I did it for one wedding and then went, I can't do this. It's like there were such slight differences, but when you've got such little time to make decisions and get it right, having, I don't know, it's like getting into your partner's car and suddenly it starts raining and you're like, I know this car has windscreen wipers.
Yeah.
Is the button. And then, if you're sitting in the same car, you go, oh, it's all right. I know it's there. It's not a problem. And we have so little time in the job that we do to make mistakes or to repeat. There's quite a few moments where you can't say, do that again. Didn't quite work. Or I was doing this. Or I hadn't pressed record. I'd pressed stop. And I missed what you just did. There's very little opportunity for us to mess up in that way. So I think the more you can trust your kit and know exactly what your kit does versus anybody else's is imperative.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. I've never, ever since I've been a wedding photographer, I've always had 2 same cameras. I think it was Ben Chrisman or Tyler Workin or someone was always just like, you can't have 2 different cameras because your brain won't
that some people do.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know how they do it, because they were just saying that your brain will just get baffled between the 2. And just the slight differences of where the ISO is or whatever, right, is massive when you're got a split second. So I've always had the
same cameras. If you end up setting something slightly different, if you set up back button focus on one and not the other, and then you're like, this is not working, and I don't understand.
Yeah, it's good that technology has come far that you can just set one camera up now, put it on, well, I don't know about Canons, but you can with Sony, so you put the SD card in, you copy all the settings, and then you put it into your other camera, and you can reload all the settings. And so basically both cameras are always the same. Yeah.
That's very clever. I mean, when I first started doing highlight videos, there was no face tracking. It was manual focus as somebody walked towards you. And so it would go in focus, out of focus, in focus. And I just had to accept that some of the clips would do that. It was kind of like handheld, vibey of that's what it was going to look like. Or I'd have to cut a clip as soon as it went out of focus, and it used to really frustrate me. And as soon as face tracking came in, I was like, oh my God, game changer. This is so useful for what we're doing, to know that you're nailing the focus on the photos that much quicker, because you're like, I can literally see that eye has been caught and I know it's in focus. So then changing to video and the little blue square stays on their faces as they walk towards for confetti, and you're like, great, it hasn't, gone on to Auntie Mary who's standing at the side. But you can just tap on the screen and say, back to that bit, please.
Back to that, yeah. So I only discovered like face tracking like 2 months ago on my camera, because like when I was like messing around with video. Yeah. But I still like, I shoot back button and I shoot manual, like, I just keep recompose, whatever it is. Yeah. I'm just like so tuned into that but I've started to use the face tracking because I've been playing around with video. So I've just been using it for that, and I'm like, man, this is so easy. It's like, just press here, follow that person, and it's just like continuously.
Well, and even for like pulling focus on something else. So like if you're trying to get a nice detail shot and say, I don't know, the dress is in focus back here, but the bride's here getting her makeup done, and you just tap on the dress and tap on her, and you keep your frame the same, but you pull focus from one to the other. Like having the ability to do that without having to set up anything that's kind of particularly complicated means that the video seems a bit more clever, and a bit more kind of storytelling than just I'm filming this. Or I think there's a tendency when you first start filming to like pan everything, and you're like, woo, woo. And I'm like, oh, stay still a little bit more. So like using those kind of tricks that the camera is really clever already and has that tech for you. I don't want to say it's totally easy, because obviously it's a new skill, but I think it's much easier now than it was
definitely
10 years ago.
Yeah. I was just like, I shot an engagement party, and so I was practicing, and I wanted to see what the different shutter speeds would be like as well, because I wanted to slow it down and just try some fancy like in camera, see what certain things did. And I would talk into the camera as well while the dancing's going, this is a 1,000 second, like whatever. So then I know that when I'm listening back, I'm just like, oh, I don't have to look at like the final cut, whatever.
Yeah. That's great. I like that.
What I realized is that I shot no B-roll, like nothing.
Right,
to put everything together. So like the last week or 2 weeks, I've been like YouTubing like how to shoot B-roll, and someone came out with this like 10-second rule, like whatever B-roll you're shooting, just stay there for like 10 seconds. Yeah. And then stuff might happen in front of it or whatever as well. And I was just like, okay, that's cool. So I'm going to take that with me tomorrow and start like going around shooting like loads of B-roll so I can tie in the whole video, because
anything like storytelling wise that you would think of for photos. I mean, you're of the same kind of age and time with me, that we would shoot for an album as photographers when we first started, right, of page layouts.
Yeah.
And I try and think of the video as the same kind of thing. Like you can have 2 hours of getting ready time in the day, and then only 12 minutes of the ceremony, but you can't have the first 3 minutes of a wedding video be just getting ready and then 10 seconds be the ceremony. It's got to be like an equal spread of pages and an equal storyboard across the video to work for all of it. And I think if you can kind of think about what details would I want to have in the album layout, it would be the same kind of thing for B-roll.
Yeah, no, that's very true. My only problem is that I'm so shit at shooting details. Like I don't show, like I'm so moment driven and people driven.
Yes.
That like planners hate me because I would like go into like these weddings sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'll just spend like 5 minutes, and they're like, "Are you done already?" I'm like, "Yeah," because in my back of my mind, I'm like, "There's a drinks reception going on outside.
Yeah,
there's people having fun, and I can hear them laughing." And I'm like, "It's killing me to be in here right now."
Yeah.
So I'm like,
isn't it funny? I think for years I probably was more details heavy, and sometimes would like not forget the people completely. Obviously I'd take some pictures of people, but I was kind of like, I felt like anything they'd spent money on, and I don't know if that sounds a little crass sometimes, but like, flowers, shoes, decor, any of the kind of like, I've done a few flat lays in my time, but I'm not great at it. So I've kind of trying to avoid it. But like if they've spent money on things and they're going to forget about them, or those things might be ruined by the time the wedding's over, I like things like their seating plan or any signage feels quite important, because they may not keep those.
Yeah.
So I do try and make sure that those details are included, but they're not the kind of things that always necessarily end up in the film. The film tends to be more people, but also making sure that it's not just about the couple, that it's so much more about the experience of how the day felt for the guests, more so than the couple. Like, I'll only do a handful of couple shots, and I will concentrate more on photos when I've got the couple like time with them. I'll concentrate more on photography than I will trying to get loads of filming of the two of them.
Yeah. I always find it weird, like how people, because I've been watching videos a lot more closely now, but like how they work in the couple photos sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm just like, I don't think they really needed a couple photos there. Like, you know, like it's a bit weird because
it can
like,
be a bit lingering.
Like, yeah, because you've got this like, it's good for like the intro or something like that, you know, like, and it's got their names or something like that, whatever. But after that, it's really difficult to like work it into, well, that's what I find anyway, when I see like videographers do it. And I'm like, I don't know whether it needed that there, because like sometimes it's got like this energy and stuff like that. And then it suddenly goes to like them two laughing and you're like,
yeah,
why did you do that
I say on the course that I've run, and I always say, please, if you're going to do video of the couple, don't just get them to walk. Because it like can end up looking like there's a minute of the video where the couple just walked at various places around their wedding venue, like walk towards me, walk that way, walk over here, and like at least get them to sit and talk, or to like practice their first dance, or to like give them some games to play so that they're doing something that isn't just walking, because it can just look like you just followed them round and stalked them as they kind of wandered around their venue. So kind of, as long as it's not just that and there's a little bit of difference. And I think variety is key massively in video anyway, in the same way that you wouldn't put a wedding album together where you've shot everything at the same focal length and you're the same distance from everything. Like, it would end up looking a bit samey, and your brain wants something else to be excited by. And to get someone to watch 4 or 5 minutes, you've got to keep those cuts interesting, whether that's to music or adding bits of audio. I'm trying to add more ambient audio into my videos and bring that alive, like the sound of chatter or glasses chinking, like stuff that actually happened from the camera. And I'm really enjoying how that brings it alive even more. Yeah.
There used to be this company, you might remember them, I don't know. It was a long time ago. There were videographers called Still Motion.
Okay.
Do you remember them? Like, I don't know what they do now. I don't think they do weddings or whatever, but they were the masters of ambient sound during they had this like YouTube of them setting up like all the ambient mics in the churches and everything, and it was just literally just to collect ambient, and it like lifts everything.
Well, I had the one I'm working on at the minute, the reaction of the dad. I didn't have him mic'd up when they did the reveal, and I didn't realise he was really going to even be in the room. So it was meant to be like her walking down the stairs, coming into the living room, seeing the bridesmaid. So I was kind of ready to kind of capture that on video. I tend to capture a reveal as it happens on video, and then try and get some photos of them still squealing thereafter. But the dad was in there too, and he said, "Oh my goodness, darling, you look beautiful." And I took the audio from just the camera roll, like I didn't have him mic'd up, and it still felt more important to have it in and the sound not be perfect than for it to be a missed moment, because I thought it was so lovely the way he said it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think like it's just like moment trumps everything kind of vibes, you know, like even with photos, like you don't have to have the best composition, but like if the moment's amazing, then that photo stays in the gallery for me.
Yes, completely. And I think the nature of, there was a point when, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, when it felt like every photographer was starting to give less photos, that like people had like gone, I give 450, well, you know, whatever it is, you know, like it started naming a number. And I was like, geez, do I give way too much back? But I'm like, they're your favourite 90 people that are in the room. If I've taken loads of candids of people during speeches, I don't want to pick the 5 most beautifully lit, or, you know, like the people that would make an Instagram looking post. I want to put in everybody who's laughing and enjoying at your wedding day. And if that means I hand over 1,200 photos, I'd rather give them all. Why did I bother taking them if you're going to restrict the numbers?
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I'm a massive over-deliverer as well. Like,
me too.
It's crazy.
This is my problem. Hello, my name is Hannah, and I'm a massive over-deliverer. I can't help it. I'd rather them have everything.
I think so too. Yeah. Like you know, like in Facebook groups, you always hear like, oh, people are asking for more photos or whatever, right? I've literally, in this entire career of mine so far, I've never had anyone ask for more.
No,
like,
me neither.
Never said, is there any more of this person or that or whatever it is? Like, I've never had that.
No, I could do a first edit within a week of 375 pictures. Like, I could quite easily deliver that much that just told the story of the day. And yes, everything else is like a slightly different angle or an add-on to those moments. You know, like they may be the pictures that tell most of the day already. But if there's you know, like if you've got a summer wedding where it's light till 9:20 and you've got loads of like informal groups or people chatting or lovely entertainment and all of that stuff's going on, it feels so silly to like restrict how much you include for the couple, because they're going to look back on those people more often than we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah, that's the reason I give it, because I'm just like, I'm just going to give you everything. You're right. Like, why take it otherwise? If I know that I'm going to cull this later, there's no point taking that photo.
No, exactly. How many pictures do you take on average at a wedding? Are you an overshooter as well as an oversharer?
Yeah, I am. But my weddings are Indian weddings, so they're like 16 days. So yeah, so anywhere between 12 to 16,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, per wedding. So, but I'm really quicker. Like, it seems like a lot. The thing is that the way I shoot is like, it's probably like 900 to 1,000 sets of a photo. So like every photo or each moment has 50 images that couple it with it, because I draw through the actual moment, and I'm only trying to get like the best one at the top of that sort of moment curve or something, you know? So, and then I just deliver that one image. And so
are you using AI stuff to cull your weddings, or are you still culling it? He's like, nope.
Still manual. Yeah.
And what about your editing? Are you kind of passing that over now to?
I am. Yeah. I've been doing aftershoot for a long time now. So I basically, that's been a godsend. It's given me like so much of it. Like, you know, they put in their adverts, like, give you your life back. It honestly has. Like,
I feel like I have an editor that I'm like, thank you, I'm going to go make dinner now. Thank you for editing my pictures.
Yeah, and like, just for previews or something. So I basically will edit like about 140, 160, like with going in with gradients and everything like that, that are in my slideshows or in the previews and stuff like that. But the rest of it is pretty much aftershoot, and maybe I tweak the cropping slightly. Yeah. So I go through
I think if you fed aftershoot enough of your galleries and it's nailing the colours, mine seems to get it right quite quickly.
Yeah, same. I fed it a lot of images to start with, like 12,000 or something.
Yeah, I think
because I'm like 1 Lightroom catalog per year or something. So it was easy. It was just like, here you go. Here's my. Yeah,
I was set up in a day. I had another photographer came over to my house, and I was like, help me. I'm so stuck in 1996 with all of my admin and my ideas. I was like, I need to know how this stuff works. But I think it's hard when you've been doing something for so long that has worked, and you think it can't. If you change it, it's going to take you longer, whether that's like, I see people editing on, like these things with little.
Yeah, I used to do that. It came up on my Facebook memories. I had
I guarantee that now we've spoken about it, will be advertised them.
Yeah, it was what was it called before? Like, it was Pfixer was the software, which I love. But I was using like the Behringer thing. I think like Ross Harvey taught me how to do it, and I was just like, oh, this is amazing. And on my Facebook stories, I'm like, oh yeah, it was like from 11 years ago. It's like leveling up my editing and like
which like
now, so it's like,
I remember I was like people doing it almost with like a
controller,
and I was like, are we turning into teenage boys that came after school? Like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So I get that. Like, I was watching some training videos yesterday on ChatGPT and like how you can embrace some of this new technology. I mean, I think all of us are using AI remove to help us rather than throwing stuff into Photoshop these days. And something that might have taken us, 25 minutes of tweaking, we're like, circle that and go. And I think it's still worth having backup Photoshop knowledge for when those edits don't work particularly well, or, it just adds in a weird tiger and you're like, no, that's not what I wanted.
Tiger,
But I think, it's embracing new technology. And every time new cameras or new stuff comes out, I'm like, you either learn on this job and keep learning and keep progressing. I still feel like there's training things that I can go to and be inspired or like push myself for. And I I don't want to like get to a point where I'm like, oh, this is as good as I'm going to get and nothing's going to change. I'm like, okay, so the last wedding I put out on Instagram should be my best one. Let's go. What's next? And the more you can kind of like grow that, I hope that like your clients are always going to be happy because your own expectations of yourself is to keep pushing.
Yeah, I do. I before every single wedding, I do get hyped up, but I hype myself up like in my head of like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to do this, this and this. I'm going to try this. And even like, I've been watching, like, because I haven't shot anything since like, well, I did this small engagement party, but really and truly, I haven't shot anything since like October. And so like, so I'm like really excited to like, but then because I've been doing the video stuff, like that's really, really like excited me for like the pre-shoot tomorrow and like all the stuff I've got coming up now, because I'm like,
with the conference that you've organised, you've brought together so many people that are doing this, right? And are excited about telling other people how to do it.
I mean, and so many people, because of that like conference, are excited to learn, because you know that's the fastest thing we've ever sold out. So it shows you that literally like in a day, and it was like done.
I said we should take it on tour. Let's get a tour bus.
Yeah.
And take it around the country.
I was telling Andy like we should do it again. I'm thinking about doing it like at the end of this one, maybe launching it and doing another one next year, because each year there's like different things that you can learn and stuff like that. So like making it like a yearly thing. Yeah. The price was right. Like, I mean, it had a lot of factors in there that worked, but it was.
I think also doing kind of training pre-season is really
great.
Useful. You know, like something like adding something to your business that you could make monetary kind of value on fairly quickly. And I've said to people so often that you already have the client base that you can add this to. It's not like you've got to find new clients to add this to. You could contact all of the clients that you've got this year if they don't have a videographer already and say, I've done this training. I'm not going to charge you a huge amount of money, but would you mind if at some key moments I gave it a go? I think there's no harm in like trialing it fairly quickly. And then the people that I taught last year, lots of them are rolling it out at every wedding and charging a good few £100 extra for every single wedding that they're now shooting, and doing it for like corporate events and stuff too. So like there's so much scope then to like push it even further.
Yeah. I think also like, I don't know how you're finding this year, but you know, a lot of people are worried and stressed about like not getting enough bookings and stuff like this. I think this is a really good like thing to add on that people will maybe come to you more, because they're on a budget and stuff like that, because like people are getting, you know, cost of living and all this other stuff that's going on around the world is like affecting everyone. And so like if they can get one person to do photo and deliver them like a 5-minute video, rather than getting a videographer.
I mean, I don't want to put every videographer out of business. I'm very conscious that that's another trade in our industry. And if anybody ever says to me that they want full speeches, full first dance, like static at any point, I'm like, I know all these amazing videographers who are great and they'll work with me. And you don't want me. That like, I think it's really key to make sure that you don't start promising stuff that is too difficult. Yeah,
it's all in this, like, what I've come to learn, like with everyone that I've spoken to about hybrid and stuff like that, and doing hybrid, it's literally like it's all in the cell, and in the cell of like maybe more so of like what you don't deliver over what you do deliver. So it's like more of like, I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't do this, I don't do that. So if you still want it, like,
you're like, I'm going to lay out everything on the table. Yeah. And if that still sounds like something that you're interested in, I think it's quite nice for couples to know that I've done it for so long and that like it's a real instinctive bit of my business, that I'm not playing or practicing or trying to work it out, that it's a kind of like, it's just what I do. Weddings where I'm not doing both feel weird. Where I'm posting photos, I keep like, I'll go to like change to get video, and I'm like, oh, I don't need to, either because they've got a videographer or they just have only booked me for photos. But I almost feel like they're easier weddings.
Yeah.
Because my brain's got one less thing to have to watch. It's like taking one kid out instead of taking two.
Yeah.
You're like, this is easy.
When you shoot, like, if they didn't offer video, I know, like, you're saying like, it becomes a lot easier, but do you not shoot clips for yourself, like for BTS or anything like that?
Maybe like a little bit for Reels but I don't, it's so difficult because you can kind of then end up getting into the like, oh, well, I've taken enough, I could almost make them a video.
Yeah.
And if you're not being paid to do both, then I don't think you need to put that extra pressure on yourself. I do think video is king when it comes to like grabbing people's attention on posts and reels and stuff. So anytime that, like I did a big Indian wedding, I think it was 2 years ago, and they had one videographer and 2 photographers. And obviously there's always a lot going on at an Indian wedding, and he was doing stuff with the groom. Oh no, maybe he was doing stuff with like parents or something. He was still kind of like somewhere else, and I had the couple, and it was the only moment that we were going to get them outside the front of the building because it was getting dark. And I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm going to take him some video so that he's got something of this moment too. And I'll send it to him on Dropbox afterwards. And I said to him, I hope you don't mind, but I did a little bit of video, a few clips. They walked towards me. They had a moment outside the front. I'll send them to you. And I did the same when we were doing getting ready. He'd already gone to the ceremony and was doing the groom's entrance and all that kind of stuff. And the bride was still putting on all of her bangles and getting ready. So I filmed just a few little video clips and sent them to him. And he was super grateful because it meant the story was complete for his video. But I did message him afterwards and say, I'm going to put a reel together. Do you mind if I use like a 3-second clip of them walking as the beginning of the reel? And I will say in my comments that you were the videographer and I just happened to get some stuff for reels. And he was like, no, absolutely. Like you gave me so much stuff that I can use for their full video. I'm so grateful. So I think if you're working with somebody else, when there's a videographer, you kind of got to be careful to like not look like you're taking video. That's like, would I be annoyed if they started taking photos?
Yeah.
But if you're there just you, then I think you could take a few video clips, whether they'd asked for a video or not.
But don't you think now though, like times have kind of changed that like you said, video is king. And like every single wedding I'm going to do this year, I've fully set out to take some video clips, like, because for my reels, not for like anything else, but like for like literally, like you said, for the first 3 or 5 seconds, like, and so it's so great. Like, I'm not trying to tread on their toes. And likewise, like if I've had videographers and they've taken photos and they're like, oh, I need it for the static shot for the album DVD cover or whatever. Or I'm like, YouTube. I don't care. Like, or YouTube cover. I'm like, do what you want.
The only time I've had it was last summer. The couple had booked me to do a highlight video and photos. And then I got a phone call from her about 2 weeks before the wedding saying, just letting you know, we've also booked a videographer.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, but I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
But my contract already said it's just me doing that. And I said, should we jump on a call? I was like, I think this might be easier if we talk this through. And I said to her, I would rather give you the money back for me doing the highlight film than have to fight for the shot with somebody else. And you're always going to have a favourite of his highlight film version. I know he was going to do full speeches and full ceremony, but I was like, it will be the same but different. And there is no point in me trying to like get confetti photos and video and breaking my back to do both when he's standing next to me already trying to get the same bit of video. So it was a bit of a kind of eye-opening thing for me because I hadn't really clocked that anyone would ever do that. Yeah. And it felt a bit of an awkward conversation, but I was like, you wouldn't ask 2 cake makers to make a cake. You wouldn't have 2 DJs play in different rooms and see who gets the best dance floor. I was like, we shouldn't have 2 people trying to do a video and see which one and she was like, I just didn't want to let you down. And I know your videos are great. And I think also she felt she was taking money away from me. From that particular booking. I think it came from a place of kindness of her saying, will you still do a video? And I was like, I'd rather not.
Yeah. But you were pretty good as well, saying like, I'm going to just give you the money back. Some other people that
maybe
like, they could have their backup like about it and stuff like that.
I'm, luckily to be in a financial position maybe to have been able to do that. But would that have got me a bad review online?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like for me, the how can I help this situation and being the better person, or at least being kind of as understanding as I can be in business, has got me where I am today. I don't do that kind of like, well, I'm going to charge you another 100 quid to put your gallery back online or send you different paperwork or whatever it is. Like any of that stuff makes me go, oh, if someone asked me to do that, I'd feel a bit like, don't be a dick. Just be kind. Just get it done. So I just thought it was the easier way of fixing the situation.
Yeah, no, that is it's the best way to
I'm really
have done it.
non-confrontational too. Like, I don't want to fight.
It would have been awkward as well at a wedding and all sorts. Like if you started arguing beforehand and whatever about like, oh, my contract says this and it's only me.
Ironically, he had 2 video guys and one of his cameras broke that morning. And it was really stressful. And then he forgot his battery chargers and I picked them up for him and brought them to my house because I knew he lived closer to me than the venue. So I ended up seeing the videographer about 3 days later to give him his batteries and his chargers. Kill with kindness and protect his batteries.
Honestly, killing them with kindness is the best way. I think a lot of people forget that, but it's like literally the best way to go about everything. And
we have a catchphrase, sounds a bit daft as a family, but we have a saying that I've posted about it on my Instagram ages ago, where when the kids were maybe littler than they are now, we would expect them to say, "How can I help?" at least once a day.
Yeah.
And it's this like premise of knowing that you're part of a team and that other people are willing to kind of offer help, even if you don't need it. It's really nice to say, but how can I help? And I said, you can say it to your teacher, you can say it to a friend, you could say it to mummy and daddy when you get in from school. But to offer help makes the other person feel like you're not doing it by yourself. And I find myself saying that as a phrase to friends, family, couples. Is there anything I can do to help? You're like turning up to a corporate event and I'm there early and I don't need to set up cameras. And I'm like, is there anything I can do? Do you need any help with anything? And just offering that and being present for somebody else with no regards for like anything back from them, I think can be just a nice way to set up a friendship. And certainly as a family, makes our house run a little smoother.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just I had my youngest school report, like, parent teacher meeting yesterday. And she was just like, oh, Isla is so good at helping around in the nursery, like, or reception, wherever year she's in. And like, picks all this stuff up and does all this stuff. And I'm like, really? I'm like, because she's not like that at home. Like, her room is like the complete opposite of my older daughter's bedroom. My older daughter's bedroom is pristine. Like, she always keeps the room like this. But if you see my youngest one, it's just like, oh my God, it's the other way around. It is horrific.
It's funny, my eldest is the messy one, my younger one's the tidy one. Maybe it's just a case of one kid does one thing, so the other one rebels and does something else.
Yeah. But the difference in her school report to how she is at home is remarkable.
It means she can.
Yeah. And also, to be fair, I'd rather her be like that outside in public and be polite, respectful, and all the things that we try to teach her. Yeah. And then if she acts like this at home, I'm happy with that, rather than it be the other way around.
No, absolutely. So, you don't want a bad school. No parent wants a bad school report. Yeah. I think I have on my website that my reviews are school reports for grown-ups.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about reviews.
That. Yeah.
But,
I was going to ask you a question because you touched upon it, but so something like the confetti. Like, how are you doing that? Like,
I put on a cape and my superhero goggles. I think there's all of the things where you're trying to do both as hybrid. I try very much to make sure that I've spoken to the couple first if they've got preference for photos over video in any particular moments. And there's a few key moments that I say, if you'd rather it be a key moment in the film, I'll film first. And if I get some photos, Brucey bonus. Most of the time, my instinct is to get the photos first, and the film clips are the extra because I'm there as a photographer with an extra to do the highlight film.
Yeah.
Something like confetti is quite easy, I think, to direct in terms of like how you set it up. There is kind of maybe 2 or 3 different options of being able to get both. One is to, like, if you've only got a venue where it has to be a straight line and they have to kind of head straight down towards you, if you can get the couple to kind of stop, have a kiss, like have a moment, and you say, I'm going to photograph the first half. When you kiss or cheer or like have that moment in the middle, I'm not going to photograph it. I don't really care that it's happening. It's just giving me a chance to get further back and film the second half. Yeah. So like, you've got that chance to do it. Quite often, a lot of the venues that I will do, I'll try and make that line a bend or a snake. So it will go off to one side because even just the corner will slow them down and mean that I've got a chance to kind of get further back to then video the second half. Anything that's shot in 50 frames per second can be slowed down to half speed. And if you're needing like 2 seconds. It's 1 second of footage. Good, decent, smooth footage, but you don't need a huge amount. And certainly confetti always looks great in slow-mo. So if you've got 3 seconds of it, decent footage, that's 6 seconds of the video. 6 seconds is actually a really long time to watch a clip. And as soon as, when I'm editing, I go, has my brain understood what's happening here? And normally after 2 seconds, your brain's gone, that's enough of that. I don't need any more of this. So as long as I've got a few seconds, I will kind of make sure. My backup plan is that every wedding I have a bag of white paper circle confetti in my camera bag.
Okay.
I take that with me, and most of the time it never comes out. There's probably been 2 weddings where I've thought, I'm not sure if the confetti shot was quite as long as I would like for video. And then when I do bridesmaids and ushers group shots, I'll say, we're gonna have another confetti moment. I've brought my own. Let's go wild. And it just gives me a bit of a backup to be able to add that in. It's probably only been twice in the last 2 years that I've actually got that confetti bag out. But it's nice to know you've got it if that moment didn't happen, or you concentrated on photos and by the time they got too close to you, it didn't work. I think with a moment like that, I generally would have both cameras ready, one for video and one for photos, in case you're buffering, because with confetti you do tend to fire a lot of photos off, and then if you then change it to video and it goes, I'm not ready yet, you've lost the moment. So I would tend to maybe put 35 on one side and my 2870 on the other, so that both can shoot from kind of fairly far back and that they don't kind of get so close to me that, you know, say if I had, I don't know, a 50 and an 85 on, and then by the time they've got so close to you, you've missed the opportunity. So I think you've got to think about how you set it up, what you say to the couple beforehand.
Yeah.
And if they stop and have a kiss, or if they march at 100 miles an hour, I will say to them, well, I just got the photos for that bit.
Yeah.
Like, and just be really honest about it, because you asked them to stop.
Yeah, exactly. And like, if you communicate well, it's fine.
Yeah, I think, you know, and make a bit of a joke of it. And then I've also know that I've got my backup confetti bag in the camera bag in case I need.
Are you always shooting at 50 frames per second then?
And sorry, say again?
Are you always shooting at 50 frames per second? Is that your...
Pretty much the whole day, yeah. I think you can do 100 frames per second on the R6s, but then you get no audio.
Yeah.
So unless there's a moment where I think I'm going to need it, 50 frames per second, for me, I think my videos aren't that long and my clips aren't that long. So it's very rare that I want to go down to 25% on slow-mo.
Yeah.
50% kind of always feels enough.
I always find that 100 frames per second, even though I've set my camera up for that, it's just like overkill. There's not many things that you want to see at 100 frames per second, like slowed down.
No, any kisses is going to it's just going to be not good for the soul. Maybe confetti or like an aisle walk could be good that slow if you need the kind of safety of it. But I find 50 frames per second generally works for most of the day.
Yeah. And how are you capturing audio? Are you miking everyone? I have this big thing. So you use those.
Yeah.
Like the Sony TX, whatever they're called, right?
Yeah, Sony TX 650s. We can link that in the bio.
Yeah.
Description.
Like what? Like I had this massive bugbear of like when I'm taking photos and like videographers put their thing on them. I'm like, man, they've got this like really amazing expensive suit on, and like you've just clipped on this thing, and you know, like they're not hiding it well. And they're like, no, it's hidden. And I'm like, mate, it's on it. Like,
no, it's not hidden. I mean, they do look, I think with the square top, these can look a little bit like a vape. Like if it's out a white suit, I'm like, oh, it looks a bit vapey. There is, Rue from Rue Films has brought out like a little hooded thing. I think they're called the Rue dogs. They like make it like a little microphone top.
Yeah. So it doesn't reduce the wind or something like that, right?
Yeah, but they do make them look less square and maybe more discreet. I think on a white suit, everything's going to look a little stark. I don't know if I have that many weddings where you can see them. I mean, I'll try and hide them my best. Certainly with the speeches, I'll put one on the microphone and then either I'll have a couple on the table or put them on suit jackets if I can.
Yeah.
And then I think because I'm often shooting by myself, I'm setting up stuff that I know I can edit out. So I might edit the microphone out for any kind of close-up photos in the ceremony, I know I'm going to edit it out in the pictures, but it needs to be there for the video because otherwise I am not going to capture that audio.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I wasn't like, with your backup, it must be crazy then if you've got like 3-4 of these TX6, whatever they are, 50s, plus like all your cameras and stuff like that. Like, are you just backing up as soon as you get home or like the next day?
Yeah, pretty much. I take my laptop if I can and back up to a hard drive during dinner. The audio files are really small. They're not actually big files at all. I have to remind myself to like clear stuff off of the mics that have been on it, like, and are saved on it on a folder for bloody ages. And I'm like, oh my God, there's weddings on there from 8 months ago that I haven't cleared off. But it seems to be able to kind of hold quite a lot of data. But I don't tend to shoot very often in 4K for video. So that means my file sizes are not as mad as they could be. So that helps, I guess. But yeah, everybody takes a minute to back everything up when they get home, right? And then put it on an extra hard drive and copy it over and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I put it on my wife's dressing table. I set my Mac up and I'm like, it's got to be in the same room as me. I can't even put it downstairs, like in the dining room. I'm too paranoid.
No, it's funny, isn't it? I also don't clear any cards until everything's delivered to you. So I have everything like saved until I know it's got to the client. And then I've got a Dropbox and Pixie backed up. And like videos are all on my Vimeo account too. So like there's so many versions of it. But I had a bride recently contact me from a wedding, I think it was 2010, asking me for prints that they hadn't ordered. And I was like, oh my God, it's so long ago.
Yeah.
And she had her CD, because it was CDs then, of images. And I said, if you can Dropbox me the ones you want printed, I'll do it that way around. But I'm not going to try and find them. It's 15 years ago.
Yeah. That's pretty mad. I keep everything like in SmugMug, so everything has a year, and then like I could find it pretty easily. I've always, because I had SmugMug when I first started weddings, so even though I've swept through the years to like Shootproof and then PicTime, but everything always goes on SmugMug first. Like no matter what. That's like
I have an old Dropbox account. I think every wedding from 2015 maybe is backed up on Dropbox. Like all their finals are all backed up on there, but that's now 10 years ago. You know, like it's a huge back catalogue of weddings.
Yeah. You don't think about changing to PicTime now that they offer video? Like your
I use PixieSet, and you can put video on that too.
Oh, do they? Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. Like I was just like, I knew that PicTime because they sponsor us and stuff, and they were like, oh yeah, like we're doing video and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, I've looked at various ones, and I think VidFlow is another one that lots of videographers use because you can put chapters in and stuff too. It's so hard, isn't it? You can add so many of these different things to your business, and like anybody who's using the thing that they're using feels like the best thing to be using. I've got so much backed up on PixieSet now, probably, 2017 onwards, that actually I have to change it all again. And you'd probably still want to keep paying for that, so I didn't lose everything on that too. Because I end up going on there, like when I've been writing talks for things that I'm speaking at, I'm just downloading pictures from my own PixieSet rather than trying to find them on old hard drives, because that seems quicker.
Oh yeah. I do the same thing when it comes to like, I don't really do talks, but I don't know. Whenever I need to like
if you want to find a post or like something from ages ago, and I'm like, oh, let me just find it on the client's gallery rather than finding an old hard drive and plugging that in.
Yeah. So how are you finding this year anyway for your bookings and stuff like that?
2025 is pretty set. I think I've got 24 weddings in. I do a fair amount of corporate events, and I've got 2 big corporate companies that give me dates way in advance. So one of them's already booked me for, I think, 12 events throughout the year.
Oh, wow, okay.
Conferences, some dinners, and they kind of tend to be February, March, April, and then quite a few in October, November, December.
It's perfect.
They're one of my favourite clients. I've done headshots for every member of staff. I think there's 96 people that work for the company, and I've met all of them. And I've worked for that company, like been their main photographer for like 12 years. So they're very good to me. Have kind of invited me to the Christmas party. So
that's nice.
That's a nice add-on to weddings. And then I've got another couple of conferences that are like 4 or 5 days long that I'll get, sent to Liverpool or Scotland, and I kind of put those into. So I'm quite lucky that they're set and in the diary, and I know how much money's coming in from those. I probably already have about 10 to 15 family shoots booked in this year.
Yeah.
And if I run a couple of my courses and get the course online, which I'm hoping to do by the spring, then that's probably enough for 2025.
Yeah, that seems like a very packed diary, I gotta say.
I think I hit April 1st last year and went, I'm not going to take on any more. My diary's at capacity. If I could copy and paste myself and keep sending versions of me out to do work for me. I've had a couple of associates shoot corporates that I couldn't do, and then I've still edited it.
Yeah.
So 2026 is looking pretty sparse, if I'm honest. I've got a few wedding inquiries and a couple of meetings planned, but not a huge amount. I think with my hysterectomy at the end of this year, I'm trying to put off booking in too much. January, February, March 2026. So I need the inquiries to come in. I'm lucky that my website still seems to do that for me. And maybe because I'm still showing up on Instagram a huge amount, the inquiries there, but they're not as quick to book as perhaps they have been previously. And it feels like there's quite a lot of times when I put one of my inquiries into our little WhatsApp group and 4 people go, oh, I've had that one. Oh, yeah, I've had that one. And you're like, oh, they're sending the same thing of like, I love your work. And it really resonates with me.
Yeah,
like, oh, why would you do that? I thought you loved me. So it feels like there's a lot of that going on with clients that they're like.
There's a lot more shopping around this year, for sure.
I think there's a lot of that.
For sure.
But confidence probably not the right word. I'm assured that it will happen and the diary will fill up. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even look in a year in advance. So 2026 to me, I've got nothing, and it doesn't really concern me.
Like I know throughout this, I mean, even in the last couple of months, I've had wedding inquiries for May, June and July this year.
Yeah, same. I've had one last week for April, and I'm like, oh my God.
And that blows my mind, people, because I assume that people are going to be booking 18 months in advance, but I think maybe the industry's shifting.
Oh, that trend has changed, I think, now.
Interested in booking quite in advance as they used to. I mean, maybe for their venue, but maybe they're leaving us suppliers waiting just a little longer before they book us in.
Also, like I was talking to one bride, but a lot of people are having a lot more, like in the Indian scene anyway, like a lot of people are having like a lot more short engagements because they want to move on with their life. So they're like, get proposed to like Valentine's Day, and then they'll start planning their wedding and it'll be like this June, rather than like it being all the way next year. Because they just want to move forward.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah, because I had a couple of like weddings last year where they had really big weddings. They put me in Jan and it was like in April, and then the other one was like in May, and it was literally, they were just like, people are just having short engagements because we just want to live together. So,
I mean, I've heard a few people saying that, like, you know, where are we at now, 2025, that those who would have met in COVID times.
Oh yeah,
there was a lot of people that didn't meet, and then, you know, engagements or you know, being with somebody for long enough that you then say, yeah, I'm willing to marry you, might tend to be sort of 3 to 5 years, and maybe we're hitting that point where lots of people just didn't meet and dating wasn't the same for a good 10 months. So perhaps we're now feeling the consequences of less people getting married and financial pinch of people going, I don't have enough money to pay X amount for, you know, a big venue or whatever, or just leaving it a little bit later to go, I've saved up enough money for this kind of budget. Now I'm going to approach those photographers and see if I can book in.
Yeah. I don't know.
Who knows? I feel like,
exactly.
You know, I feel like weddings will always be one of those things that always happen.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I think as an industry, we're quite lucky that it just keeps ticking over. They may change and we may have to adapt with them. And I think if you're not willing to do that, that's when your business will suffer. You know, whether that is the likes of how well they want to get to know you or feel like you're their advisor, or what you're showing regularly online, you know, that like what clients expect from you may change. And if you don't keep up with all of those things, then you get lost in the system.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. You touched on it before as well. So it's like, you know, like not getting complacent, and like, you know, you're talking about training and stuff like that, like always learning new stuff. Like I'm a big believer of that as well, because you can become complacent so easily because you're like, oh, I'm booked up for this year and I booked up a little bit for next year. And then suddenly you slip by.
April last year, I put out a post saying, I'm not going to take on any more for 2025, but I still put stories out.
Yeah.
Every damn day. I still posted maybe twice a week on my feed. And I had a couple of photographers going, why are you bothering? If you're already booked up. And I'm like, because I need to prove that I'm busy.
Yeah.
What's the point of saying, you know, lucky me, I've got all of this work, and then not sharing that? It always surprises me how many photographers don't share. I pretty much post something from every wedding throughout the year.
Yeah, I do too. I think like maybe to yourself and like to me as well, like a lot of it comes natural now. Like,
yes,
it doesn't take much effort. I know it takes some people a lot of effort to like put a post together for Instagram or whatever. Like my new thing for this year, like I made a resolution, was just like I'm going to try and tackle TikTok and like put a post or two posts.
So old. I'm going to tackle TikTok. I know. I'm on TikTok. Let's go. Like, I'm ready for you.
No, but you know what? Like the last 2 weeks, it's been serving me such awesome fucking content. I've been doom scrolling for ages on there.
What, you're looking at stuff rather than posting?
It's flipped it on me, but I've been enjoying it, and I'm working out what sticks for people and what's not working. And I'm just putting stuff out, and what I like about TikTok is it's just it's like a jumble cell. It's a random mishmash of stuff.
Like there's no of the wedding industry.
Yeah, there's no like really like grid, or like you don't have to have this beautiful looking grid or whatever, right?
Yeah, it was less polished.
Yeah, so I'm just putting stuff out, and I'm just seeing like what works and what doesn't. I was just like, I want to put one TikTok out a week. I'm doing a bit more than I'm doing 1 or 2 now, because I'm just translating Instagram posts into like TikToks as well. But because image carousels work on TikTok, you get quite a few views for that. So yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's always got to be talking to camera or doing something stupid or whatever, right? But like just image carousels with like a good description works. So yeah, I mean, I trying my hand at it.
I think there's so many things like that available to people.
Yeah,
and you have to like. I think it's better to invest in one thing really well than everything with less energy. You know, like if you're going to just not quite I don't do Facebook anymore. I got hacked
out
of my Facebook account about 3 years ago. Someone changed my account name to Elizabeth Hurley. So that's my pseudo now. I'm now Elizabeth Hurley. And all my friends were going, why are you messaging me as Elizabeth Hurley? And I lost all of my personal pictures that I'd uploaded since like 2000 and whatever it was, 2003. And I then lost the business account connected to it. And I just went, I'm not going to use it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to set up a new one, which sometimes I'm like, damn it, I've got a sofa to sell. Where am I meant to put this? But it's been quite, I don't know, empowering maybe to like go, I don't have to worry about Facebook. Yeah. I just assume it isn't happening anymore. And then I just show up on Instagram that much more purposefully.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you there slightly, but also I think like, I don't want to be complacent and be left behind on like, if people are searching more and more on TikTok. I think people are doing more research on different things as well. So they'll like look at TikTok, then they'll look at your linked Instagram account, and then they might go to your website or like flip it in different ways. And so like, I just want to show them something. And like I said, because it comes natural to me, like doing Instagram now, I'm not finding it like additional work. I'm finding no. So to do TikToks is like,
I think there's all that thing as well, though. It's like a younger generation. I mean, how old do we sound? But like, where is your ideal client hanging out? And maybe 10 years ago, like Facebook was the thing, right? That would be where 25, 30 somethings were posting about their lives and their status and how they felt about things. Then perhaps that moved to Twitter for a moment and it got a bit more political. And then Instagram took over once video was kind of more being pushed. And I think like there's a moment of thinking like, well, it's TikTok for the kids, you know, for the youngsters. Yeah. But actually, those youngsters might have been on it for 5 years. They're going to turn 25 soon and also be looking at weddings. And if you're already established on there as someone who's sharing content, that's not going to be a bad thing to catch that new market that's coming up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just playing with it right now. I'll see how it goes. I'm like, got like 10 followers.
Bring back MySpace. That's what I'm saying.
MySpace was awesome. I love MySpace. I don't know if you remember this other thing as well, High Five.
I don't know if I ever did that. I did.
That was like the sort of basic
Flickr.
version of Facebook.
I had a lot of personal photos saved on Flickr for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But that was
I learned off Camera Flash because of Flickr groups.
Did you?
Yeah. There was this like Strobist UK group and then like...
Okay, funny. Like, I think like a lot. It was when I sort of first began with pre-parenting. So like I hooked like into like some mummy groups and like where to buy cool clothes for kids from and that kind of stuff on Flickr. But did meet up with some people that I'd met on it. Like it was like a lifetime ago. So we like years ago.
Yeah, same here. And there was one really good group that was called SWPB. It was like an American group, and that was really good for like photography knowledge and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but, like, you had
did
to be
you get
invited
involved
in
in Clubhouse stuff over lockdown?
I did. I tried to do one or two, and then I was just like, I just couldn't see the value or the point of it.
No, it was a kind of open podcast to talk to lots of people. I think it upped my Instagram following for a while because everyone would follow everyone. And then I look back and I go, who are these photographers that I'm following?
Yeah.
Switzerland. I don't know who this person is. I've never messaged them. I don't recognise any of their work. And I'm like, maybe I met them in Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, yeah. God, that gives me like PTSD vibes for like COVID and stuff like that. Some of that.
I mean,
like,
what a wild time that was. I'm very grateful that we got through it as an industry and that, you know, some help was given to some people. But I do hope that our businesses don't have to ever have to work out how to cancel 27 weddings and shoot them over the next 2 years whilst taking on more.
Yeah, exactly. I was mentally like, 2020 was great, but 2021 I was not in a good place.
I know it was,
which is why I do all this gym stuff and everything now. It's like it's all part of it's all part of like a different, like, never to be like how I was in 2021. But it basically
and if you know where your like dark places, it's good to know not to go there again. You know, like if you work out what things you can do to help yourself and what's kind of what works for you. I have a PT who's an ex-groom. I shot his wedding about 4 or 5 years ago. He's a ex-bodybuilder, and I couldn't get through my week without seeing him once a week and him pushing me like to lift much heavier weights than I'd ever think my body would be able to do. And it's like, if you can get things in like that for your week, it's amazing how like it just breaks up just work.
Yeah, it's been awesome to talk to you.
So lovely to chat to you.
Yeah, it's been
pleasure. It's so interesting, I think, how much we can learn from each other just from shared experience. There's so much that we're all doing on our own, in our own little offices, working away, editing our little things. It's so nice to actually connect with people, you know, slide into a DM and actually make a friendship rather than just thinking you're doing it by yourself.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dotcast from NineDots. We'd love for your help to grow the NineDots podcast. So feel free to hit that like, drop us a comment, or share the podcast on any of the platforms that you use. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for the next Dotcast episode coming soon. And in the meantime, check out nine-dots.co if you want to find out more about membership, or you want to learn how NineDots can help you or your business achieve the goals that you want. Get in touch.